Greetings from Washington, D.C. This is Peter Thomas, the NAAOP General Counsel. Great news this week. Yesterday, the House VA Health Subcommittee held a hearing on a variety of Veterans Affairs legislation. And included in that hearing was the Injured and Amputee Veterans Bill of Rights, H.R. 2322. The NAAOP has been strong supporters of H.R. 2322 since Tom Guth was president of the NAAOP several years back. The bill originally passed in 2010, if you can believe, 8 years ago, but was not able to get across the finish line in the Senate. The bill's since been introduced a number of times, first by Renee Elmers of North Carolina, and then by Mark Wahlberg, a Republican from Michigan. We've been working consistently with a particular staffer, Mac McKinney, who has been just fantastic throughout this process and has really continued to never give up and to continue to push the Injured and Amputee Veterans Bill of Rights. I'm pleased to say that Congressman Wahlberg was able to testify before the VA Health Subcommittee yesterday in front of Chairman Brad Wenstrup, who, as you may know, is a podiatrist and who's helped the O&P field in a variety of ways, including most recently on the A5513 issue involving diabetic foot orthoses. The hearing also was attended by a number of other members of Congress, including the chairman of the overall VA committee, Chairman Phil Rowe from Tennessee, also a Republican. Phil Rowe spoke positively about the bill and looked forward to potentially marking the bill up in the committee. He had attended a hearing, a field hearing, in Fayetteville, North Carolina, the home of Fort Bragg and Pope Air Force Base, also the home of George Brees, our executive director. And George was able to meet with the chairman and hand him a letter from NAAOP asking that he consider the legislation and discuss that very legislation in the field hearing itself. And that's, of course, one key reason why the committee decided to hold a hearing and included the Injured and Amputee Veterans Bill of Rights on their agenda. A number of veteran service organizations, what they refer to as VSOs, testified as well. We had at least two organizations that just outright supported the legislation, including the Paralyzed Veterans of America. One organization expressed some concerns around some of the language and asked that to work with Congressman Wahlberg and the committee to improve some of the language involving the rate that would be paid to providers for care provided by contract prosthetists and orthotists. We didn't feel that that was necessary to include in the legislation because that's VA procurement law anyway, and it really doesn't pertain to what's important to the patient. And this, of course, is a Veterans Bill of Rights. We'll continue working with that organization to see whether we can bring them along, and eventually we do think that we can find consensus. We've been in touch with both of the organizations that expressed some concerns and continue to work through that process, and hopefully we'll bring them on board in the end. So the Amputee Coalition was in town as well yesterday. It just so happened that the Amputee Coalition had their fly-in and was on Capitol Hill all day, and we were very pleased to see that Jack Richmond, the president of the Amputee Coalition, was in attendance at the meeting with a number of other prosthetic users, amputees who had flown in for the day, and it made a great visual at the hearing itself. We're very pleased that the Amputee Coalition was able to attend and participate in that hearing. So we'll continue working on this legislation to move it forward. This legislation is that much more important now that the VA has put out its proposed regulation that basically states that the VA has the sole authority to choose the prosthetist or orthotist for a particular veteran. That's a big change in VA policy. They don't view it that way. They say that it's a clarification. But the bottom line is that for over 4 decades, veterans have had a right to choose, and private prosthetists have had hundreds of contracts with the VA to provide and augment the VA's capacity to provide orthotic and prosthetic care. So we'll continue to work on this bill. We're very bolstered by the most recent activity. We're very pleased that both Congressman Wahlberg was able to testify directly before the Health Subcommittee, and that the VA Health Subcommittee and full committee appear interested in moving forward with this legislation. Thanks so very much.